Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Records and Rants. Today, we're going to be talking about literally everyone's favorite band, U2. And I can't do it without the help of Dixon. How are you?
Ice, great to be back. Let's just stop the music for a minute right now.
Okay.
Really appreciate the intro. Because you hurt my feelings last week. You really
come on! It was a total accident. You took it. You took it in the wrong way. I understand how it could hurt you. I apologize many times, BTS. I'm just putting it out there for everyone.
You want to apologize on the air because you really made it. Nobody cares about what this other fat idiot has to say. God. What do I think? And we'll figure it out. And thanks for listening to me only.
My God! Yeah. I said all those things. So you know what? To put it to rest, for God's sakes, I can't take this anymore. I can't take this rift. Dixon, I apologize for saying the singular I in last week's episode. I'm sure a lot of people heard that. I'm sure a lot of people were confused as to what was going on between us, but it was a misspeak. And there you go. There's my formal apology. It'll never happen again, I'm sure.
Well, that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your rectifying it. And I'm glad to have a fully on board team effort.
Yes.
As we dive into, as you said, what seems to be everybody's favorite band, U2. So it's kind of interesting. So can I just hit you with a few really, really quick facts?
Yeah, sure.
So U2, they have their seminal album, Joshua Tree, right? So Joshua Tree, U2 is synonymous with the album Joshua Tree.
Yes, they are.
Ranks 135th on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time.
That is
the fastest
crazy
selling. It is, yeah. It's the fastest selling album in British chart history, even though this is an Irish band.
Yeah.
As a band, as artists, they're ranked 22nd of all time.
Wow.
The Edge. Now the guitarist for U2 goes by, his name is The Edge, which I can't imagine a more pretentious,
yes,
less edgy name than The Edge.
It's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
It is.
Really.
He's ranked as the 38th greatest guitarist of all time. And Bono is ranked 140th on their recent 200 greatest singers list of all time, which we know has been widely discredited. We discredited it on the show a few episodes ago. So just some quick facts to kind of put you in the mindset of what U2 is kind of, known for, where we're at. Maybe that would shift our perspective a little bit.
I mean, I'm honestly surprised about those placements, to be completely honest with you.
A little too high, a little too low?
I would say
just in general.
I would say a little too high, if you ask me.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, I'm surprised to hear that, because I thought you were going to go all in on a U2 praise job.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's complicated. It really is.
Okay.
And we talked about this little BTS, and I said I had some hot takes on this, but
yes. So
I guess today we're talking about the overall band, U2, and what we think about them, of course. And
yes.
In listening to them, they have, first of all, I realized that they have many, many albums. But I thought about it and I said they have the Nickelback effect, at least to me.
Right.
Now
Nickelback effect in terms of good, bad, otherwise.
Okay. I say they have the Nickelback effect because I believe that they have some good songs, but very, 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 very few out of their entire catalog. And the other songs in their catalog are just bad to me.
No, I hear you. It's amazing to me how many, because I think U2 is one of those bands that you can go multiple nights and probably know like 80% to 90% of the set list.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have a lot of hits.
Yes.
And I'm sure we're going to get into this as well, but like you said, that's a really good point you bring, that the Nickelback effect, that the catalog is expansive. It's huge. But in reality, are they all quality? You know, they have that album War, they have Joshua Tree, they have all that early 2000s stuff where they're kind of made like I wouldn't say a comeback, but they were just everywhere.
Yeah.
And then back then in that same era, they had like these massive tour stops. Like they would have to, like it was like they would just bring an arena and put the arena inside another arena. There was like the most expensive tours of all time. Things would sell out, and of course, we'll have to talk about, and we will get into iTunes and the total invasion of privacy.
Yeah, that's absolutely probably one of the most egregious things I've ever done. But and to your point, I think you hit the nail on the head when you asked the question. Yeah. They have a huge catalog, but right. Is it all quality? And I would say that it's not. But the problem is for me is that I feel like a lot of their hit songs I actually do enjoy. Right. It was one of those things where I was listening through and I'm like, oh my God, this is a U2 song. Okay, like I like this song. But right. Like you said, the vast majority of them, they're not quality. And it's kind of interesting, and again, to go to what you said, they have their earlier albums, and this band has been around since, I think it was 1978 that they were formed, which is crazy. Which is wild. I mean, like when I heard U2, I literally thought that they were an early 2000s band. That's what I thought when I first heard of them. But yeah, they've been around for a long time, and I don't know if their sound has really changed all that much. I feel like it has changed a little bit when you listen to like their earlier stuff like Boy and other albums from that era, from the 80s. But
right. No, I agree with you 100%. I don't think their sound has evolved all that much.
No.
And I think, once again, going back to the Nickelback effect, I think there was, not to keep saying the edge, but there was a little more of an edge in their early 2000s stuff. I think a little bit faster, a little bit harder, with the exception of some blips in their earlier catalog. But definitely more of an edgier sound in the early 2000s. But to consider the fact that they've been around since 78, I mean, there's longevity there. You know, in terms of, if we're going to be objective, they've been around for a long time, and they've had a solid audience for a long time.
I know, that's really impressive. And I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't found out why. I guess
you could say you still haven't found what you're looking for.
Wow. Great song, by the way. I actually do enjoy that song.
That is a good song.
So, and in looking this up, I saw that, and this is a quote from Wiki here. It says, the band was formed when the members were teenage pupils of Mount Temple Comprehensive School and had limited music proficiency. Now, you could argue that maybe the music proficiency has not improved.
Hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah, it hasn't changed. It's kind of like, and it's really weird to me though too, because okay, they started in 1978. Boy was released in 1980. So like 3 years. Did they really have enough training? Were they really nonstop working at this to get up to that point where they're getting signed these record deals and getting all these live hits and selling out stadiums and stuff? I was so confused looking up U2 because I don't understand it.
Right.
It's a lot of mush to me, to be honest with you. And I'm not, man, I know I'm sounding like I'm coming down hard on it, but it's a lot of mush. It's a lot of the same. And I just don't know if there's all that much there to give them as much praise as it seems like some people give them. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think that's spot on. I think that they had I guess let's start at like the 80s period. Yeah. So when Joshua Tree came out, they were already a popular band. War, Boy, all those albums. Mm-hmm. Joshua Tree came out and they became this huge band. I mean, I think there was five or six singles that were charting. I had 5 singles that were charting.
Yeah.
You know, they were huge, and that's a lot of their hits came from them. And then, you know, they have the 90s, and then they just had this resurgence. And I think to consider, like I get, like I said, the longevity and the massiveness of the tours they launched in 2000, it seems like there's almost also a Nickelback effect in terms of, oh, these guys were great and they're still great, and we got to buy their tickets, we got to buy their albums. This is the best tour, this is the best concert, the biggest tour they've ever had. There might be a little bit of a Nickelback effect there in the opposite way, that, oh, these guys are great and we have to go see them and they're fantastic.
Wow. No, that's actually a really good point that you brought up. I think that is probably true, because I feel like maybe people are clinging on to when they were popular, when they released the Joshua Tree. Which, what do you think about that album? Because I feel like there's some good stuff in there, but if you're looking at this band and you're telling me listen to the Joshua Tree, it's the best album ever, I don't know if I don't know if I understand. I'd be like, oh wow, really? This is their best album?
If anybody hears this, any YouTube fans, you're gonna get so much hate because the Joshua Tree. Oh my gosh, the Joshua Tree! It's a Walmart T-shirt. People are. It's like that Nirvana Tame Impala effect that you see. Like, oh, the Joshua Tree. This is something I have to like. So let's talk about the Joshua Tree for a second. So are you familiar with the legend of Joshua Tree, the Joshua Tree?
I believe so. You'll have to remind me on that one.
So even to go a little deeper, so that area, the desert, was founded by Mormons, and they're there, and they name it Joshua after the biblical figure. And the Joshua Tree itself, Joshua Tree is an actual plant. There's Joshua Tree National Park, Joshua Tree Desert. The Joshua Tree itself is a sign of like thriving amongst adversity. Like it's a spiritual connection.
Oh, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, because it's a pretty raw landscape.
Yeah.
So then you have Graham Parsons of the Flying Burrito Brothers. He had his own band. He was in sort of like a southern alternative country jam-esque sort of thing. He died in room 8 of the Joshua Tree Inn, and that's Joshua Tree, and the Joshua Tree Inn have become sort of like a pilgrimage site. Everybody goes out to Joshua Tree to find themselves, and it's this spiritual moments of clarity. There's an artist that wrote an album called Room 8, and they recorded it in Room 8 of the Joshua Tree Hotel where Graham Parsons OD'd. So there's a lot of symbolism there.
Mm-hmm.
So the Joshua Tree, the album by U2, it's this story. From what I read, it's like this symbolic commentary on America and how America is. And it's probably at that time when they released it, you probably heard things about Joshua Tree and like, oh, Joshua Tree, probably synonymous with American culture, Yeah. So I think that's probably why they made that connection there. Made the pilgrimage out there at the very least, just for a photo opportunity for the album cover. So 5 hits off of that song. You have, still haven't found what I'm looking for. One Tree Hill, which was only charted in Australia, New Zealand, in God's Country, With or Without You,
Mm-hmm.
Where the Streets Have No Name. And so listening to this album, it just seems like, once again, like you said, if this is the ultimate album of their career, enjoyable songs, would I say, oh my gosh, you have to listen to this album and it's going to change your life? I wouldn't see that. And
No.
I think it gets a lot of praise because you have Brian Eno was a producer on it. They say this is a departure. This is more of an experimental sound for U2. And it seems like the experimentation ended at Joshua Tree, and it's been the same stuff since then, since 1987.
That's a really good point. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I really like the song One Tree Hill, which ironically enough only charted in Australia and New Zealand. It's got a good beat. I like the transitions. And I think it's one of the few songs where I could really understand what Bono is saying. Did you come across that? Did you notice that it's kind of hard to understand Bono at times?
Yes.
Either with the volume of the backing track or just his vocals in general?
Yes, no, absolutely. I think the album that I realized that most on was Pop in 1997. Right. But yeah, I would say throughout, it was the worst in that, but throughout the rest of these albums, you're absolutely right. And it's kind of weird because I feel like he does have a punctuated singing voice. Like I feel like you can possibly understand him, but the mixing sometimes in some of these songs is just off. I don't know if they're ducking him behind the sound because he's not a good singer. I don't know if he wasn't hitting the notes. I'm really not sure, but I did run into that. Right.
No, 100%. And the other one was the Where the Streets Have No Name. And that's, I listened to it. I watched the video. I think it's kind of cool. It's once again, it ties into that American symbolism. It's hopeful. It's immigrants coming. It's And then God's Country too. I think God's Country is on that.
Mm-hmm.
Both like these hopeful kind of immigration tunes that America is it, like we're here, this is the next level, and that really parallels with the band's success. Rolling Stone writes that once Joshua Tree was released, it was huge in America, and U2 became the biggest band in the world at that point. As a result of that album, and it really turned on a whole new American audience to U2. I think those are bright spots. The hits are good, but I don't know. I don't get it. Like I said, it's hard to explain. I think, like you said, I just don't get it.
Yeah, and I don't understand the widespread popularity either. And
right.
I was looking this up. This went number 1 in over 20 countries.
Wow, that's huge.
Isn't that like? I mean, that's absolutely wild. It sold 240,000 copies in its first week in the UK, platinum certification within 48 hours.
Yeah, wow.
It's just, but again, like to what you're saying, I don't understand it either. And there's some things on there. I actually listened to the deluxe version where they have some live stuff on there.
Ooh, okay.
And Where the Streets Have No Name. Yeah, that was an okay song, but I listened to it live, and it sounds like they are just absolutely defiling the guitar. This Edge guy that you were talking about. I'm sorry, I hate to say it because I really listen to like the musical things. I know like you're a lyricist. You're
right.
very intelligent with the lyrics and stuff. But when I was listening to this music, I couldn't think of anything but that. And just
yes.
This guy just defiling the guitar. I'm not going to say the R word because you can't say that on YouTube. But the tone was off. It reminded me of me playing my Ibanez beginner $100 guitar that I got for Christmas on my shitty amp, and just
that was awesome,
just slamming on it. And that was kind of what it was like through the whole live thing. And again, it just brings up the question. It's like, well, why is this really the number 1? If you ask me honestly, I would say it's because you have all this mush going on of the U2. It's their new kind of, like you said, quote, experimental phase, and you do have some decent songs on there. Yeah. But I think the problem is that's all there is, because after this,
right,
there's not really much else. And
right.
That's why I think people go back to this and say, okay, this was, this is their best album. This is why they're so great. But then after that, there's nothing else. It's like a void after that. Right.
Yeah. There's that empty spot in their career. And keep in mind too. Yeah. I totally get that's. I think the Edge is doing that defiling, like that's his thing.
Yeah.
And that's why he was, according to Rolling Stone, the 38th greatest guitarist of all time. Just to put that in perspective, that's 37 spots away from Jimi Hendrix, and 36 spots away from Eric Clapton. just to put it in perspective, look at the bigger picture.
I mean, come on. And, I was looking up the Edge here,
right.
And a lot of, it's on Reddit, and this person says, why do a lot of people hate him?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's very mixed, which is very interesting. This person says he's a very bland guitarist that is full of himself and has been put up on a pedestal.
Right.
He said for something like a 32-song set, he used 30 different guitars. That is the most pretentious thing you could ever possibly do. Saying, you're so elevated, you're so above everyone that, you don't understand. I need a different tone here. I need this guitar feels good for this song. It's like you're not shredding. You're not. I really hate to say that he's not technical, but it just doesn't really seem like that, and it seems pretentious for these simplified kind of songs with these power chords. I mean, that's really what most of these songs are. It's power chords. It's droning on, and that's it.
Yes. No. Yeah. It's definitely. Bland is a good way to put it. And like you said, to have the multiple guitars. I mean, come on. It'd be really interesting to consider, like the guitar techs and the live aspects of the guys that came before the Edge and what they did, and how many guitars. Now, Clapton's a little bit of a weirdo. Clapton's kind of pretentious too. He might do this too, but I feel like he doesn't.
Yeah,
because
you could also say he earned that position, though. I mean, like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go back to the phrase I say it all the time, like as a joke, but a poor craftsman blames his tools. And if you need 35 different tools to get your job done, there might be something there.
Yeah,
Right?
it might be the operator at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and speaking, I don't want to jump ship off the Joshua Tree too quick, but we're talking about guitarists, and you know the song "All Along the Watchtower," right?
Yes, of course. Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix cover. It's basically Jimi Hendrix's song.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
and we talked about that in our Bob Dylan series. You guys should go check that out. I'll put a little card right here. But
Yeah.
now, did you know that U2 covered that song?
I think I knew that, but I don't know if I've heard it.
So I listened to it. It's off of their album Rattle and Hum, which has some live stuff and it has some studio stuff, and they played All Along the Watchtower. Dixon, don't listen to this. for your own sake. For your own sake. This it's easily the worst rendition of All Along the Watchtower I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my gosh. I believe it.
It's like you take, and this is going back to our discussion on the Edge. There is nothing edgy about his playing. This is the most
There's no edge.
This is the most soulless. It's like you took that song, which has so much passion and soul into it, I feel, and you just took all of that out of it. And then you're left with All Along the Watchtower covered by U2, and that's what you get.
And that is amazing. That is incredible. And I feel like there's a reason why that song hasn't been covered a whole bunch. You know, it's had its moments and there's been different versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not one of the Bob Dylan standard covers that you hear. And maybe there's that reason why you're explaining it, is that there's a certain vibe, a certain tone, a certain level of passion and soul to it. And when your whole thing is now your shtick has evolved from, the American experience to in your face Super Bowl, Madison Square Garden. Maybe that's not the best vibe you could put out with that song.
Right. But I almost think, because this was off of Rattle and Hum, which was I believe this was their next release after Joshua Tree. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it's from the 80s. But either way, I feel like they thought that they were up on that level where like, we could cover All Along the Watchtower. We're that great. We're like Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan. We could do that. But I don't feel like they've earned this spot as one of the most listened to bands in the world.
It's such a vexing question.
Yes, that's a really good way to put it.
Because when art is art, but when does art and media and like perspective, like I think we get it right a lot of the time. I think we get it right. I think there's bands like you've talked about, like the Smiths, the Beach Boys, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, these classic acts. Anybody you want to mention that has had an impact, I think a lot of that makes sense. Bob Dylan, whoever it is. That all that coming together makes sense, and like, okay, these guys have quote earned that spot, or they deserve that spot. For U2, this is all coming together, and it's like, okay, why? And then like you said, I don't know the answer. And like I said, I think there's that you said before, the Nickelback effect. You look at their releases in the 80s and you say, okay, this is it, we have to go from here. And it's you're supposed to evolve. You're supposed to have some sort of maybe some sort of a change or whatever. Why they're accepted like this with that Nickelback effect, I think it's just a hangover from that earlier stuff that just hasn't really gone anywhere. And here we are stuck with U2 as being supposedly one of the greatest.
Yeah, I don't understand it either, and I think you're spot on though with your idea that it's just like a hangover effect, and kind of the inverse of the Nickelback, where they had these good songs and then people just wrote them out from there, and that was it. And I don't know, it's a very interesting thing. Another thing it's confusing to talk about, because you're listening to this stuff and it's like, okay, they have like 5 great songs,
right,
and the rest of it is just trash.
Right.
And it was hard to listen through these albums. I don't know about you, but I went to listen to the Songs of Innocence. Now this song is the infamous iPhone album.
Oh my goodness. let's spend a little bit of time on this, and then I want to back up too to go into the early 2000s. Let's spend a little bit of time on this Songs of Innocence, because talk about an absolute slap in the face to anybody that had an iPod, an iPhone back in 2014.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I think, the biggest slap in the face too, I believe, is that, do you remember when Verizon had no iPhone? AT&T had the contract that Apple was only making iPhones. So I think, I believe this was around the time when Verizon's like, oh, hey, we have the iPhone now. And then freaking U2 comes along and puts their goddamn album on it. so I unbox, I'm all excited, I'm hooking it up. And on my iTunes is friggin' U2. I'm like, I didn't download. What is this? And I remember, I don't even think you could get rid of it. I think it was like hard coded.
I think it was there. Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure somehow. I know. I don't. No, I remember. I didn't have an iPhone at that time. I think I still, or did I have an iPhone? No, I had to have an iPhone. I think I still had the BlackBerry. Man, I missed that BlackBerry. That keyboard was the best thing of all time.
That was a great phone. That was a fantastic phone.
That was a great phone. Did you know that Ryan Seacrest, he made a case for the iPhone that had the BlackBerry keyboard on it?
What? No, I had no idea.
So Ryan Seacrest, not to totally detract from everything we're saying, but Ryan Seacrest developed with this company a phone case you put on your iPhone, and it had a BlackBerry keyboard, like as part of the case that went over the screen of the iPhone.
That's incredible.
And then BlackBerry sued them, and then he had to stop making.
Oh my God.
Yes, I know, but it's the only time the BlackBerry was relevant. I mean, I guess they still use them in the White House, from what I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
was there a scandal or something with those?
Yeah, there was something going on. I guess it's supposed to be like that secure that RIM software is supposed to be most secure,
right, yeah,
whatever. But yeah, so I think my fiance still has the U2 album on her iTunes as of right now. I'm pretty sure. I know it was a few years ago she still had it. And this sounds great in theory, the album itself, produced by, Danger Mouse. He had the Brown album back in the day. Or the Gray, was the Gray album? Yeah, it was the Beatles and Jay-Z. So Jay-Z had the Black album, the Beatles had the White album, and it was a remix of both of them together for the Gray album.
Oh, okay.
So Danger Mouse really, really, really talented in the studio. So it sounds like a great idea. But then when you consider the fact that it's a total invasion of privacy, it's taking away precious memories, your space that you could be using it for other items. But this was like a thing like, look at what iTunes has that nobody else has. We have the album a month before you can get it anywhere else. But no, who wanted it?
Yeah, exactly.
Who asked for it?
Exactly. It's like it's definitely the biggest controversy, the biggest, most egregious thing that they've ever done. And again, like I said, it was very difficult to get it off of there. I think you had to go into your memory, and that you had to wipe the system. It was something. All I remember that it was very difficult. Yeah. I remember listening. Like you put all your songs on shuffle or whatever back in the early 2000s, or when this phone came out in 2014.
Right.
But put your songs on shuffle. You're at the gym. You're listening, and then friggin' U2 comes on. It's like, oh man, Dix, I can't even tell you how frustrating that was.
Yeah. It's become a meme. It's being memed recently. Like, oh, remember when U2 invaded everybody's privacy and it was it? Which I think because I remember it went on my iTunes and I didn't listen to one song. I listened to it. I was pissed off, and I feel like that had to have an effect on U2's either legacy or immediate popularity at that time. But I think the majority of people were like, "This is so stupid."
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And maybe, do you think that could have inadvertently started the whole U2 sucks kind of thing, or do you think it was going on prior to that?
You know what? I in my heart, I hope it was going on prior to that. I hope people woke up.
Me too.
But I think that had a huge impact. It certainly didn't. I don't think it gained any fans. I think it was a really bad marketing technique by iTunes and everything else. But remember, still in that era, maybe up until recently, a few years ago, like U2 was on Apple's commercials. Like it was U2, iPhone, iTunes, Apple Music, Apple. U2 was the centerpiece, and Bono's silhouette was the image of for music on your iPhone, iPod, whatever you had in that era.
Yeah.
And so amazing how he just got linked to this, that he is music. oh, here's U2, here's Bono. They are music. Press Bono, you will get music.
Yes, completely undeserved. How are you going to put Bono? Oh, everything surrounding this is absolutely ridiculous. Now that we're talking about it out, because I was thinking about it but now that we're saying it out loud, it's like,
yeah, I
can't believe that this actually happened. It's
yes, ridiculous.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah, really sad.
But I think the big thing was for U2 is that this was the largest release of all time, because it went on everybody's, whether you bought it or not. So I wonder how that factored into the charts. That'd be some good research if they had like, oh, it got 25 million downloads. Well, yeah, no kidding. Nobody pressed download.
I think it's on everyone's goddamn iPhone.
Incredible, amazing. Yeah, but that was definitely a subpar tactic.
Yeah, pretty sad.
but so that was in 2014.
Yeah,
and I think I think there we have to talk about, because like you said, you had Joshua Tree. And then you kind of had nothing. X Chung Baby was a good album that people were like, we're into that album for a minute. Mm-hmm. All That You Can't Leave Behind, 2000. I think that's when U2, like we started hearing U2 and listening to U2. And that's kind of why maybe that was that preconceived notion from people that U2 hasn't been around all that long. They definitely weren't from the 70s. Here they are, and here it is. That song, Beautiful Day, is... it's got that kind of like big, like surrounding backing tracks that I think is on their 80s stuff, but I think a little bit different.
Yeah, it's almost like orchestral kind of.
Right, orchestral, yeah. Mm-hmm. That Beautiful Day song, that was one of those songs you went to the store with your mom. You were in the doctor's office. Yeah, you were in the elevator. You were in the car. It was every single place I've anywhere you can go.
Yeah.
And usually those songs, they come up in the rotation. Like if you hear like an adult contemporary radio, I really haven't heard that song in the rotation all that often lately. I think just because it was everywhere, and I think it's an overrated song.
No, I totally agree. I think it has, you kind of get hung over from it because you've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
All of your life.
Yes, all your life, exactly.
It's an interesting turn for U2, I guess, because I guess it kind of has like the bigger sound that but yeah, no, I totally agree. That is the perfect framing of that song, is that it's the song that you hear when you're like going to the store or something that's playing over the speakers.
Yeah, and that kind of transition into like, so that they had this wave in the 2000s. How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb came out in 2004. Vertigo, that was everywhere. That was in every commercial. I mean, Vertigo, it sounds like big. they make songs for commercials, like in this era. City of Blinding Lights, of course. And it was funny because I'm a little bit of a political junkie.
Oh, you are.
I've gone to several rallies for different candidates from different parties, just to basically to go and either like get stuff signed or get some like swag. Mm-hmm. And without a doubt, you heard Beautiful Day and you heard City of Blinding Lights pretty often at these campaign rallies.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's something else. It's amazing. But then you have that early 2000s. They're riding this wave. They get into the U2 360 tour in 2009 to 2011. So these are kind of like we were saying, they kind of got into this mega tour, these major tours, these major shows. They're selling out arenas. They're putting in these massive installations for these tours.
Yeah.
So that was from the album No Line on the Horizon, which I really didn't even really visit for a minute, but you could see them. They're rotating in the arena. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say if you didn't listen to No Lines on the Horizon, you're not missing much.
Well, there you go. And I remember my cousin was into U2, and he's like, "Oh, the 360 tour, we have to go see this."
Come on.
And I was like, why? He's like, this is the biggest tour, the most expensive tour. This is massive. It's an experience. You got to see it. And I just recently texted him a few weeks ago. And I said, remember when you were all in on YouTube? And he just sent back a laughing emoji. But it's true. It was so completely ridiculous It's not that you two are these fantastic musicians. It's not that they had this orchestra playing, or it was like, I don't know, maybe 6 different bands. It was just the guys, you two, and to fill that space with audio. What can you do but, as you said, just defile the guitar and just play power ballads, and that's it.
That's all it is. And I think it's just the allure of this tour was probably just, it's the biggest thing ever. And I've heard of U2 before. Oh, what are they doing? The 360 tour. Oh wow, that's freaking crazy. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. And this tour went on from 2009 to 2011. It had 110 shows.
Wow.
It's absolutely wild. Highest grossing concert tour ever, with $736 million in ticket sales.
Ever.
I
wonder how much it cost. It had to cost close to like $500 million, if not. I wonder if they even made money on it.
I know.
In reality.
Yeah, who the hell knows? But it just goes back to what we were saying, is just seems undeserved to me. I could think of think of many other bands that would deserve a tour of this magnitude, and it's not U2. Yeah. It'd probably be like the last on the list. But hey, people heard they heard their songs in the grocery store or something, and I think that's all it is. It's harkening back to the days when they released Joshua Tree, and that's it. And you're Amazing. looking to the early 2000s. You're looking to their more recently released songs, and there's just not much there anymore. Again, it's baffling to me. It truly is.
And I think there's I think that Nickelback effect with the tour too, just the fact that it was so massive. And I think anybody could do that. Like, what we're going to do this tour, and we're going to put an arena, and we're going to do this. And I think it was like, okay, well, we have to see this. If you were a mild U2 fan, or you were just a music fan, or like you go to concerts, we have to see this. I think there was a lot of that.
100%.
And it's funny because they released an album in 2017, which I didn't hear much about at all. I didn't hear anything about it at all. Their most recent tour was in 2019. And you know what the tour was? The Joshua Tree tour.
There you go. There you go.
I love it because this is from Wikipedia. It's fantastic. The band cited world events such as the 2016 U.S. presidential election for what they perceived to be renewed resonance of the album's subject matter and a reason to revisit it.
It's just rehashing this old shit.
Yeah, it's the same stuff, and that's the reason why you like U2 is well, come see us again.
Yes,
It was so great because this is also Wikipedia. I didn't realize this. Now, Joshua Tree is supposed to be an experimental album. I don't think by any means like a power rock, stadium rock kind of album.
No, absolutely not.
Right, but the stage featured a 7.6K resolution video screen measuring 200 feet by 45 feet, making it the largest and highest resolution video screen of any concert tour.
Come on. It's just this disgusting, pretentious stuff.
All it is like, well, let's just do this and let's see what happens. What's fantastic is that U2 has an album coming out on March 17th. So this is what's great about it. Songs of Surrender is what it's called.
Oh boy.
Coming out March 17th, 2023.
Oh, this is big.
It is an upcoming album of re-recorded songs by U2. So they have Pride in the Name of Love, With or Without You, One, Beautiful Day. And all these have just been singles released since January. So so one was off Chung Baby. So it's the track listing is fantastic. Where the Streets Have No Name, Joshua Tree, Stories for Boys from Boy, another song from Boy, Beautiful Day. So this is also great too. They have a song from Songs of Innocence, Every Breaking Wave.
Yeah.
Which nobody knows.
No.
There's nobody on this earth, even though everybody had access to that album, nobody knows that song. I don't think I've ever heard that song ever.
No, I haven't either.
It's four discs. So it's
I'm looking at this. This is it's 40 songs, and it's just rehashing old stuff.
There's a lot on the early 80s, and that's just how it's just early 80s, mid 80s. A couple tunes mixed in there, but it's basically, what does this show you? It's the two poles of their career, mid 80s and early 2000s, and they still have been around since 1978. I mean, like, even the Rolling Stones don't do this. You can say, okay, the Rolling Stones, they're doing these stadium tours. Maybe they're an oldies act, but they still don't do this shit.
Exactly.
They go and do stuff, or they revisit other things, and that's it.
It's like, I don't know. It's to the point where it's frustrating to me, because I think, like, the Rolling, if people should be doing this, it should be the Rolling Stones, because, like, I feel like they deserve it. They're one of the, I think they're the biggest, like, live touring band in the world, aren't they?
Yeah, they have to be. They've been around since like 60, 61, 62. That, like, just the longevity of them. And they do, I saw them one time. I think it was their 50th anniversary tour. Mm-hmm. And it's this massive stage, and they have an amazing band. I mean, you have Ron Wood and Keith Richards playing guitar, but they have a full band in addition behind them. And that's like an experience. That's like, okay, and I'm not the biggest Rolling Stones fan, but it's like one of those things, like, I should probably go see the Rolling Stones, like, just to see. And it was impressive. It was good. But it wasn't like, okay, we got to put this stage in the middle and then build an arena around the stage. And then they got to see us from every angle. And we're going to play only our stuff from 1963, and that's going to be it. Which is basically every U2 tour.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in the 80s.
I don't know. It's over the top. It seems like they're patting themselves on the back. It's just not warranted, at least in my opinion. Now, why they make all these sales, I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't.
And I think there's that connection. Like, Bono was supposed to be like this, not supposed to be. He's this humanitarian. He's involved in the AIDS Foundation and things like that. He's not really, too nose forward about it, but it's there. So probably a decent guy. So you have to wonder if the Edge is trying to create this edge.
I think so. I think he has to
go from there. Yeah.
So,
it's weird. But I will say this about U2, and I don't know why I have it in my mind, but I kind of I link U2 and Bruce Springsteen together for some reason.
Really?
I think there's like this. I think there's like a lot of parallels. Like, they had Rise in the 80s, kind of like Whatever in the middle, and then like early 2000s, like Bruce Springsteen had that album The Rising after 9/11, which is a decent album. Well, we should do an episode about this too, but I think Bruce Springsteen gets a little more credit than he deserves as well.
Oh, wow. I'd love to go into that.
But I will say this. I think Bruce Springsteen has this album, The Ghost of Tom Joad, and he's like, it's this Grapes of Wrath era commentary, anti-capitalism, anti-establishment. He's waiting for the ghost of Tom Joad. I think that U2 did that whole concept that Springsteen did in 95. They did it with Joshua Tree. I think there's that Dust Bowl, Grapes of Wrath, American Hope, American Renewal thing happening on that album. And I think that Springsteen might have ripped that off from U2. And maybe that's why I link them. I don't know. But that's just one of my final thoughts on U2. If it couldn't get any worse.
Yeah.
It couldn't get any worse, but that's actually a positive for U2 that they actually kind of started that. Started that idea before Springsteen picked up on it.
That is pretty funny. One more thing that I just thought about. Yeah. Have you ever heard about the South Park episode about Bono?
No, I've never seen one South Park episode except for the one they just did on Harry and Meghan.
Oh, okay.
That's the only episode I've watched. I've never seen another episode of South Park in my life.
This one's actually kind of funny, and it directly relates to what we're talking about, and how you mentioned the philanthropy, right?
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is that South Park did an episode, and how they do the gross out kind of stuff. Well,
right.
One of the kids' dads, Stan's dad, Randy, was trying to take the world's biggest shit. And it had to weigh more than, the world record. Well, the world record is Bono, because Bono is a piece of shit. That was the.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. That is so funny.
It was so great. And then they show him at the end. They're like, "Wow, Bono is he does his philanthropy, but he's still a piece of shit.
It's so fun. That is hilarious.
It was fantastic. And
it's so funny because you don't need to even like explain that joke. It's just funny.
No,
like, it
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
It was fantastic. I haven't seen it in many years, but when that came out, I thought it was pretty funny. And I tried to look up like interviews of him and stuff, and like the one that I found was, why does Bono always wear sunglasses?
Oh, okay.
So allegedly, he has glaucoma.
Oh, really? Okay.
But before he said this, the interviewer was like, "Why do you always wear sunglasses? Is there something horribly wrong with you that you need to wear these?" Yeah. And then the interviewer says, "Is it fatal? Is it fatal, whatever you have?" And Bono goes, "I'm sure a lot of people would like it to be fatal. I'm sure it would make a lot of people happy."
Gosh. That's a narcissist thing to say, that you're so hated that people want to get you up because I'm so successful. I do so many great things.
Yeah.
That's that. Oh yeah, people want me out of their way. That's pretty good.
Yeah. No, it was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, I guess the general consensus I've heard around. Again, this is just off Reddit where I get a lot of these anecdotal things, but apparently some people have met him and they say he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I understand the glaucoma thing. I know people with glaucoma; they don't wear sunglasses.
Yeah, it would not surprise me in the least if he just did that because he thought, oh, I look cool. Like that's probably what it is. I don't know.
We were talking about Bob Dylan when he would wear sunglasses all the time, and that we said one of our theories is the theory that you kind of came up with was that Bob Dylan was just a big troll, like he's the ultimate troll.
Yeah,
and they said, well, why do you wear sunglasses? But one of his reasoning was that. I don't want people to look into my eyes; they'll see my soul because the eyes are the gateway to the soul. And there's this great, but I think Dylan was doing that to put people on, at the same time. Like I said, that troll aspect. But there's this one interview that he's doing in the early '60s, and the photographer is taking pictures. This old guy, and he's like, "Hey, can you suck on your glasses?" And Dylan goes, "Suck on my glasses," and he's like, "Yeah, like put like the ear thing, like
the
mouth,
tip in your
glasses." Yeah. He's like, "Can you suck on your glasses?" And Dylan goes, "Do you want to suck on them?" And the guy goes, "No, just suck on your glasses." And Dylan just shakes his head. He's just shaking his head like, "No." And that was it. He just walked away.
That sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So I guess the big question is. The official Ison Dixon YouTube rating, considering everything we talked about.
Now, I have a number. I do have a number in my head already.
Okay.
Do you have a number in your head?
Sort of, but I kind of want to work through it.
Okay. Understandable. So,
go for it.
If I had to rate U2, as a whole, looking at everything that they've ever done,
right,
I'm going to give them a 4.7.
Wow, that's a solid number, yeah.
And that's lower than what we gave Nickelback. I believe Nickelback we gave I think I gave a 5.5, and I think you had the same rating. I think we had both.
Yeah, it was like right in the middle. Yeah, we're right in the middle of that. Yeah.
Yes, but I feel like where U2 falls behind is the fact that the evolution isn't really there. I don't think that they're as technically proficient as Nickelback by a long shot.
Yeah.
And I think they just kind of stumbled into this and they had the hits and that's all they had. And, they have the hits that they play at the live shows and the rest is just kind of filler. It's like, okay, well, we're here to listen to the hits, but okay, I guess we'll stand to listen to this other stuff. I don't I don't understand the popularity. I don't understand why this guy is pretentious and calls himself the Edge. If this guy is legitimately a good guitar player, they don't show it on any of the albums at all, ever. It's and from what I've heard in the live shows, especially that one that I mentioned before, it just sounds like he's defying the guitar. I'd be happy for someone to correct me on that, send me a video. I'm sure maybe he is, but
seriously, send it in if you disagree.
Yeah, but again, what they present us, I feel like you had the Joshua Tree, you had some hits, and then the rest is just kind of filler, and it doesn't warrant everything that they've ever had. These live tours, putting their friggin' album on an iPhone, like all this pretentious stuff. They don't deserve it, in my opinion. That's just what I think. So what about you?
Those are such solid points, and it's so true. Once again, we kind of evolved our rating system. You were a little bit more subjective, and you had a very limited rating system.
Yeah, I did.
Like
It was like 1 to 4. It was like, yeah, it was
yeah, right.
kind of ass.
Yeah. So and to put it in perspective, so you had Nickelback at around like a mid five
Yeah.
because technical proficiency, amount of hits, that kind of thing.
Right.
Your ultimate is probably like the Smiths, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, like that kind of thing, like on the upper ends, like 8, 9, 10. And when I consider you two, okay, the longevity is definitely a factor. The album sales definitely a factor. Joshua Tree, War, whatever album you want to pull that you're going to highlight as U2's career. Okay, fine. The 2 or 3 albums they have, right? Joshua Tree, namely. The amount of tours they've had, the size of the tours, the ticket sales, the fact that it's broken records either literally or when it comes to equipment size, and I want to factor that in, but I think like a 4.5 would be fair for you two.
Okay.
I don't think any of the albums that people point to as, oh, this is the greatest album, this is U2's greatest album, look at where this is ranked. You have to consider this. I don't think it's redeeming at all.
Yeah.
And like you said before, I think that they're not all that technically proficient. Bono, you can't understand half the time. The Edge just wails for no reason. He has no direction. There's no completion.
Yep.
I don't think they're a good band. I don't think they're a good band. I don't get it. Like I said, even if you point to the Joshua Tree, I can get it, but I still wouldn't get it. If you pointed to War,
Yeah.
I still wouldn't get it. And then, Sunday Bloody Sunday, okay, fine, great song, great tune.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like I said, yeah, you have those high points, and you have the hits, and you have all that stuff. It just doesn't add up. And I think now that the fact that they're trying to pull up the Joshua Tree again, that they're re-releasing their songs that have been out for 40 plus years as a new album, I think that shows that they're just kind of a sellout thing, and they're really not all that evolutionary or all that impactful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you said, and that's a really good point. It's like, if you need any more proof that they're just rehashing their old times when people said that they were the best when they released Joshua Tree, well, hey, they're releasing an album where they're just re-recording all their songs. So, I mean, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, even Depeche Mode, they haven't. We just talked about Depeche Mode last week. They've been around for forever, and they're coming out with a new album. And one of our comments was, you could listen to any one of these songs and have no idea that this band has been around since the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you too, you do know that. And they were overrated to begin with, and they're still overrated.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. But we'll see how it goes with the new album. Best of luck.
Yeah, best of luck. Best of luck, guys. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I don't, like you said, I just don't get it. But there's something else that I just don't get either.
Oh, what is that?
Now, I'm sure you've experienced this yourself, Dixon, and we've talked about this both on the show and BTS, but
yes,
I don't understand women's obsession with Morgan Wallen.
Yes, that is another vexing concept question to ask.
Yes. And I think, I mean, I know this. Every time I go in my fiance's car, that's always on. Her Bluetooth hooks up, boom, Morgan Wallen playing immediately.
Yes.
And I will also say this: she actually overheard one of our recordings where we were talking about Morgan Wallen, and I was disparaging him for not writing some of his songs, and she was not too happy about that.
Did she know Morgan Wallen?
Who the H knows. But again, it goes back to our original question: why is this the case?
Yes, that's a really good question.
Because I didn't just one more thing. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just looking.
No, I wasn't saying anything. Not yet.
Just looking at him, I don't see it. I really don't. I'm sure I could find other country stars that are much more attractive.
Yeah.
If I look through, if I had like a lineup, but that's why I just don't get him. Why?
That's a really It's a really good question. Why Morgan Wallen? And if I have to hear that album one thing at a time, one more time, or whatever, what is it, one thing at a time?
Yeah, I think so.
One more time, I'm gonna flip. I have heard that album maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 times since last weekend when it came out,
Me
and
too.
it's on repeat. This is how impactful this album has been. My fiance has this real cheap phone case, and it impacts her voice. It impacts her audio. Like she'll break out a little bit for a minute when she's on the phone,
Oh,
and it's
okay,
because
okay.
of the phone case. There's just a block there, the way it's constructed, right?
I got you.
Telling her for months, you should get a new phone case, right? Forget that phone case. If somebody calls you, they want to be, if you have, whatever it is, if it's a serious call, you want to be able to hear the person for them to hear you clearly.
Absolutely.
That didn't, inspire her to get a new phone case. She was playing the Morgan Wallen album on her phone. She wasn't connected to Bluetooth or anything, just kind of had it on her phone while she was, doing some running around and cleaning around the house.
Right.
She took the phone case off because Morgan Wallen sounded weird when she was
You got to
listening
be
to
kidding me.
Yes. After all this time, she finally discovered because Morgan didn't sound as good as he usually does because of that phone case.
Oh my God.
That's just unbelievable to me.
Wow, Dixon, what a spit in the face to you. That's incredible.
Yeah. I'll say, wow, what a spit in the face. I just keep getting disrespected. Everybody that loves me, supposedly.
I hope that wasn't directed my way, but we'll continue.
Not at all.
I'm just kidding. But that is so funny though. It just goes to show you, how much of an allure that he has to women, and maybe it's because he's younger. Maybe he's like an up and coming kind of guy. Maybe that's the attraction there. I really don't know. And again, he has some good songs, which by the way aren't all written by him, but nonetheless, I think it's because he's a popular guy. He's a younger country artist. I think if that was the reason, then that's probably it. But it still doesn't really explain how it's on repeat 24/7 in my life constantly.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't choose this life.
We did.
And it's amazing because your fiance, my fiance's friends, they're all the same. They're into that Morgan Wallen. They're looking at tickets to see Morgan Wallen. They're through the roof. You can't even get a ticket to see Morgan Wallen. They're all sold out. If they're being sold, $300-$400 for a ticket. And what is this phenomenon with Morgan Wallen? And like you said, I think Morgan Wallen is one of the better country artists going. I think his album Dangerous had a lot of, I think it was very honest. I think it was very open. I think this album too has a lot of bright spots, but we'll share our thoughts later.
Mm-hmm.
Songs like, songs of redemption. There's moments of redemption. There's moments of like, I'm doing this, but I probably shouldn't be doing it. Kind of introspective, but it doesn't explain, just like you too, it doesn't explain why this guy is the hottest country artist right now. Maybe, in the last several years. It's craziness.
I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna have to do an interview with my fiance and just ask her like, what is it?
What
is it about? And then maybe we could come back next week and maybe find her, discuss her findings. But I haven't got an answer. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's the truth, and it's not like I don't think he's like this real like attractive man. I can admit when a man's attractive. I don't think he's overtly attractive.
No, I wouldn't say he's like extremely like, you know what I mean?
No. And in the album itself that we've heard probably 8 or 10 times combined in the last week, the album, it's 36 songs. It's massive. It's huge. And that's what he did on his last album, Dangerous. He releases these major songs. His singles come out for like a year or a year and a half before they were released. Right. Love the songs. Don't Think Jesus. I think that's a great song. Everything I Love, I think, is a good song. But in reality, it's 36 songs, and each song is exactly the same. It's 36 songs of the same song over and over again.
Yep. Yeah, no, I totally agree. So it just goes to show you that you don't even have to switch it up. They just want more of him. That's right. That's really all it is. I would be very interested to actually go to a Morgan Wallen concert and see the demographics there. I bet it is predominantly women.
Right. Yes, and it has to be. And I don't think he does like a Luke Bryan thing where like he's shaking his ass. Like I don't think he does any of that. I think he just
No.
kind of shows up.
Yeah, I think so too.
But the allure of Morgan Wallen, I think maybe there's something there. He like I think he keeps screwing up and like he's honest about it. Maybe that's attractive.
Yeah, being
Like,
being honest.
It
might be.
Like, but then I think the allure too of Morgan Wallen is like so. One of the things that is mentioned around these concerts that my fiance and her friends are trying to go to
Mm-hmm.
is that when he goes to a show, he will post pictures like after the show, or people will get him on Snapchat. Like he goes to different bars and clubs in the area, like before, after the show. So it's like, oh my God, I'm going to meet Morgan Wallen if he comes to wherever I'm going to go see him at. And that is like, oh, we got to go see Morgan Wallen because we're going to meet him afterwards. And it sounds like based on some of these songs, we talked about this in our Morgan Wallen video. He just goes to town, hooks up with everybody he can. They end up breaking his heart, and he writes a song about it.
Yeah, I mean,
or somebody writes a song about it.
Yeah, someone right,
Yeah.
someone does.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if I were him, I would do the same thing. I mean, you kind of have the
100%.
world in the palm of your hand at this point. I mean, I would go out to the. I mean, like, and, you know, I could kind of respect that, going out to like a local bar after you're done with your
cool.
show. That is kind of cool. That's
Yeah.
really like down home, I guess, kind of country boy kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is kind of neat. But yeah, I can't imagine how friggin' crowded those bars get. It's probably I could just see a wave of women just looking at their phones and refreshing. Oh my God, he's here! And then they all move to that location. You know.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's for sure. So, I think the album itself, I think it's so. I think Dangerous is a better album. I think this is just what I said. The same song, 36 songs over and over again.
Yeah, I'll have to really. I kind of tune out. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I've heard that many new ones, but I'll have to like actually sit down and give it a listen.
I listened to it on the way. It was in a vehicle for like an hour and a half, and I listened to it because it was playing no matter what. It just had to be playing.
Yeah, of course, it just had to be.
So like I said, I heard the majority of it. And I said, I think I heard the whole thing, and it's just, I don't know, it just is what it is. It's just 36 songs over and over again. And like I said, maybe that's what they want. They just want more of the same. That's what works, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that there's kind of like a not an addiction. Maybe it is an addiction. I don't know. It's just
it could be. Yeah,
there's more of him, and that's it. That keeps him entertained.
Well, there you go. There's a lesson right here. So
that's right.
If you're interested in more of the same, smash that subscribe button.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was really good, Dix.
You want the same cutting edge commentary that we just either put people up or break people down or deep dive. This is the place to come. And we have all genres really represented. We kind of dabble in everything.
We do. And Dixon, I do love doing this with you.
Me too. I love it too.
Yeah, this is really is a great time. Despite my infidelities on the last episode, I've apologized. I'm acquitted now.
I kept thinking about that for weeks. I just kept thinking about it.
Come on.
I was talking about it. I wasn't. It really upset me. I'm like, oh my God. Did I do something? Does he try to push me out? What did I think about it? Did I hate it? I'm like, oh, all right.
Okay, I guess I'll sign off. Okay,
see you guys. I'm like, did I do something? Is something wrong?
Oh my God, no! Are you kidding me? Oh, Dixon, you're something else.
I was worried, sick. And I was like worried, sick. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. When we make it big, it's over for me.
Come on.
Yeah, well, just glad we got the band back together.
Me too. I'm glad we cleared that up. But yeah, guys,
absolutely.
Hit the like button, comment. You know we listen to everyone. You know we talk about every one of you guys when you comment. And subscribe. New episodes every week. You know we're going to have a great one for you next week. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.